Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today we have an amazing guest speaker, and I know I say that every time. I know I say that we have an amazing guest speaker, but this person is amazing because she's talking about all things poo, all things continence, all things that happen that are so important, but we just sort of dismiss it, right? We don't actually think too much about it unless it's actually coming up, unless it's something that we really need to address. And pooing and weeing, it's a big thing, right? It's a really, really big issue, especially when your autistic child, can't go to the bathroom, right? I think that that would be one of the most stressful things, to not be able to go and relieve yourself, right? I know what it's like when I'm busting to go to the toilet, and I'll tell you right now, after having two kids, yes, my pelvic floor is just not the same. So I can't imagine what it would be like to go through that. So, everyone, please meet Tabitha. She is from the Continence Hub, and I am so pleased to have a chat with her. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk about my favorite things, which are pee and poo.
Pee and poo. I am here for it. So, tell me a little bit more about how you even started the organization Continence Hub. What came about?
Absolutely. I've been passionate about helping children with continence needs for a long time now. And I met my wonderful business partner, Selena, at our previous place of work. And we were really excited to start a true multidisciplinary team, which is the most evidence based way, the best way to help kids with all things pee and poo. We found that that was just really lacking in the place that we lived, which was Perth, Western Australia, and
Mhm.
indeed all over the country and all over the world. There's some really good places that we've sort of modeled off, and we got together and decided to start out the Continence Hub.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay. So tell us, obviously, with autistic kids, it's not uncommon for children to be either delayed when it comes to toileting or to really struggle going to the toileting. What's been your experience with, I guess, trying to introduce toileting to an autistic child?
Absolutely. I work with lots of autistic kiddos, and they're one of my favorite populations to work with.
Oh,
I find that absolutely amongst this population, there often is a delay in toileting skills, but there doesn't necessarily have to be. And I think that's something that both Selena and I are really passionate about helping families with. Often, autistic kids have a higher likelihood of things like constipation. They might
mhm,
have sensory differences that make the bathroom or toilet environment a bit of a tricky place to be. But
yes.
if we start thinking about these things really early, and we start thinking about routines and equipment and keeping things fun and knowing our child's sensory preferences, then often we can kind of get around a lot of these toilet fears or toilet worries that really prevent kids from becoming continent, from becoming toilet trained and being able to do these skills really independently.
And so when you say to start them off, like how early are we supposed to be starting them off, when they're like newly diagnosed with autism, maybe like 2 or 3 years old, or are we waiting to get cues from them? Like, how does that work?
That's a really wonderful question because it comes up a lot. There used to be a real sense of waiting for signs of readiness for toileting. So,
Yes.
waiting until a child is essentially telling you with their words or their body, I'm ready to start going. But more and more through my career, I've noticed that some children will actually never give you those signs. And
Mm.
indeed, they don't really know if they're ready or not. And I find this really funny because for a lot of other developmental skills, we wouldn't necessarily look for signs of readiness before
Mm.
we start giving things a go. So,
Yes.
feeding is a really good example of this. Often we think about, we might look for some developmental milestones in terms of good head control, being able to sit unsupported, things like this, or
Mhm.
sleeping. We might look for like increases in nap time, but we're not going to say, oh, we're not going to put in place a sleep routine until the child's ready. We work really hard at trying to build routines around sleep and feeding in order to encourage that child to develop those milestones and be able to
Mm.
do the tasks. So I really like and encourage families to think about toileting the same way. So that means really getting started as early as we possibly can. My recommendation for families is to wait until your baby has at least some good head control and can sit supported. So they don't need to necessarily sit without you being there. They do
Yep.
need to have a little bit of support, but they need to be able to keep their heads up. Obviously, for safety, we don't want to have to be supporting their heads while they're over a tiny potty. You might be
Yeah.
thinking, wow, that's really early on. We're thinking of kids like 2, 3, 4 months old. And
Yep.
yes, that's exactly when we should be starting this toilet learning journey. I'm not saying we have to toilet train or potty train our children, our babies at that age, but imagine if you sat your tiny baby over a potty, even just once a day, one nappy change a day, we sat them over a potty and say, yay,
Yep.
you're sitting on a potty, how cool. And then you change their nappy or diaper or cloth nappy, whatever you're using,
Yep.
and let them go on their day. Imagine how less freaked out that child is going to be when they come to 1 or 18 months or 2 years old or whenever we start doing this potty learning a little bit more intensively. That child's already sat on the potty hundreds of times. Child's already heard those potty and toilet language. That child has maybe been in that toilet environment or that bathroom with an adult and been really supported through that process. So this can really just short circuit a lot of those issues that come up around toileting, because at the moment we're sort of, as a society, a lot of the times we're giving kids a portable toilet that's strapped to their butt that's actually really efficient. We're doing all the work, changing them, cleaning them. They don't have to think about poo or wee at all. And
Yep.
around the age of like 2 or 3 or something, we're saying, okay, do it all yourselves, and guess what, do it over 3 days, which I think
Yeah.
is really unrealistic for a lot of children out there, whether they're
Yeah.
autistic or not.
Yes, so true. And I love that what you were saying before around not waiting for the signs. I think that that is so interesting. You have like blown my mind there because I didn't even, it didn't come to the forefront because yes, I don't look for signs when my child is trying to learn a new skill. I'm like actively going, okay, let's learn how to put on our socks. Let's learn how to put on our shoes, tie our shoelaces, whatever it is. You're not actively going, oh, I can see that they're ready now to tie their shoelaces. No, we're like, no, we're ready to tie the shoelaces now, or we're ready to do whatever the thing that we're going to be coming up against. So that's, yeah,
Absolutely.
I find that so fascinating. And do you find that kids who are younger, when they've been toilet trained younger, might have like some sort of a regression? Has that ever happened?
Absolutely. Regression is a normal part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
Anyone who's tried to learn a new skill recently will know that this is absolutely the case. You'll have a period where you think, yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
up and to the right, I'm doing really well with this. Then there'll be a period of plateau where you think I'm not improving at all. Sometimes there can be a bit of a dip or a regression. And this is a totally normal part of the learning curve, especially when we think about big milestones like, sleeping in a new bed, moving house, changing school, going from school to school holidays,
Yep.
changing daycare, maybe parents going back to work or changing their work hours. There's
Yep.
lots that can happen across a child's life where they might just need a little bit of additional scaffolding, go back to the strategies that used to work for them. So whether that's using a bit more of a timed approach, whether that
Mhm.
is jazzing up the toilet room, giving it a bit of a makeover and making it a more fun space to be in, to entice them in, draw them in, whether
Yes.
that be, doing something totally different, like taking the potty into the backyard and having an outdoor toilet time,
Yeah.
something that's going to, whether, and most importantly, really reviewing their bowel and bladder to make sure that something like constipation hasn't crept in, because that is the biggest thing that we noticed with toileting regression is there can be some underlying constipation that causes that.
Yes. Okay. And so, what happens, I guess, then in terms of like sensory sensitivities, what are we supposed to be doing to address them feeling more comfortable going to the toilet, right? Whether that's for wheeze or poos, like just being able to physically, because some kids don't even want to sit on the toilet, right? And I totally understand what you were
Absolutely.
saying about like, trying to breach that gap or bridge that gap rather with the potty early on, getting used to that sensation of sitting on that. But what happens if you haven't, obviously maybe Johnny's a little bit older and we haven't really sat him on the potty that much, and now we're getting ready to toilet, and he just has like an absolute what's the word I'm looking for? Just not wanting to sit on the toilet at all? What would
Yeah,
you do in those
feeling
situations?
really dysregulated, right, in that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Bathrooms and toilet rooms are really sensory rich environments. So that means that
Mm.
they're often echoey, they're often too bright or too dark. There's often weird smells in there, whether that be, their brother hasn't flushed the toilet properly, or there's cleaning products that they're a bit more sensitive to than we are. There might be, weird echoes. It's usually the coldest or the hottest place in the house, depending on what season you're in, right?
Yeah,
Usually the aircon
right.
doesn't quite reach there properly, or the heating system doesn't quite cut it. So it can be a real challenging environment. I like to treat the sensory preferences of the child as, as I would with any other activity. So first it's finding out what are the sensory preferences for that kid. How can we work with what they like and what they feel comfortable and familiar with? So if they are really sensitive, we might try and dull some of the sensations, thinking about quieter lighting or softer lighting, thinking about, can we put down mats on the floor so that it's not such cold tiles under their feet, or absorb some of that echoey sound? Can we play soft music if that's something that they would like? Can we put up visual information that they're going to enjoy, so posters of their favorite characters? Or is it actually too stimulating? We've just decorated the bathroom, we've put way too much of stuff in there. Maybe we need
Yep.
to calm it down and bring some of that stuff out. Are their sensory needs for like their vestibular system and proprioceptive system supported? So do they feel safe and comfortable on the toilet? Do they have a really supportive seat and step? Do they actually prefer sitting on a potty? And can we drag a potty into the toilet room and let them sit on that for a while, so that they can feel more comfortable and closer to the floor, so that their sense of balance and movement is really
Yeah.
supported?
Yeah, and do you find that there's differences between boys and girls when it comes to continence?
I do really
Yeah.
find, obviously, people with a vulva and people with a penis are just built a little bit differently.
Yep.
One of the biggest things that I find is often people with a penis, little boys, are more likely to develop constipation when they have gone through that early potty learning or toilet learning stage. And
Mhm.
often this is because we think that it's really important for people with a penis to learn to stand to wee. And
Yes.
I'm a big fan of standing to wee. I think it's very useful. I recently got a Shiwi, and it has revolutionized my camping
Hang
experience.
on.
I can now wee standing up.
What is a
However,
Shiwi? I need to know.
a
I
Shiwi,
need to know
a
what this
Shiwi is
is.
amazing. It's essentially a little funnel that it kind of cups your vulva, and then you can pee out of it. You wee out of it, so you can actually wee standing up without it dribbling down your legs. If, like me, you have a vulva and you're not very good at aiming, so
I love
really
it.
cool.
Yeah,
But
right.
so thinking about our people with our tiny little people with a penis, a lot of the time we teach them to stand to wee because we think that's what they need to be able to do. Socially, we feel it's a little bit more acceptable. Often there's urinals and we want them to be able to access that equipment when they
Mhm.
go to public bathrooms, school bathrooms. However, when we stand to wee, we're missing a crucial opportunity to sit to poo. Think about
Yes.
it. I wonder if you've ever experienced this. I certainly have, and I think it's great. Sometimes I'll go to the toilet because I feel like I need to do a wee. My internal interoceptive sense is telling me you need to do a wee. There's a pressure in my bladder. There might be a bit of a tingle going on. So then I go to the toilet, and because I have a vulva, most of the time I sit to wee. And I sit down, I start doing my wee, and then, oh my goodness, a bonus poo starts coming out. Yes, best feeling in the world. But if we only stand to wee, then we miss that opportunity for a bonus poo. And when little people, our children, are learning about their interoceptive awareness, those internal body cues that tell us what our body needs,
Yep.
sometimes those signals for wee and poo get a little bit mixed up. And that's totally normal. I've just
Mm.
explained how, as a fully formed adult that teaches this stuff for a living, I can sometimes get it wrong. I can sometimes get a surprise poo coming out when I didn't really expect it to.
Yep.
And so, of course, this happens for kids as well. So I
Yes.
really encourage families to maybe ditch the standing to wee for a little while until they're
Yep.
really confident that their child has a good toileting routine and that they're pooing really regularly in the toilet, and there hasn't been any opportunity for them to miss their daily poo. Because of course standing to wee is really convenient and it's really quick, but then a lot of kids with a penis will say, oh well, I don't ever want to sit again, because who needs that?
Mm. And no doubt because the boys think it's so fun, like, "Oh, just wee everywhere. Let's go," you know? Just
Absolutely. Yeah, you got like this you got like a water gun at will,
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. And I think
exactly.
standing to wee is still a great skill. We still want to teach it, but we want to make sure that we have a really well established toileting routine, that we're really sure that that child understands they need to try and sit to poo as often as they need to. And of course, for every child, that's going to be a little bit different. For some
Yep.
children, that might be doing a poo once every second day. For some children, that might be doing 3 poos per day. So understanding your child and making sure they have that many opportunities to be able to sit and get their poos out.
Yes. Okay. So that leads me to my next question. What is it classified as being constipated? Because as we know, I've got people around me who will go for one, like as adults, I mean, one poo every 3 days, right? And then I've got other people that, like you just said, were doing multiple poos, multiple on during the day. So, what is classified as constipation, or is it different for everybody?
So there is a classification for constipation, and at
Okay.
Continence Hub, we use the Rome 3 um, categorization, which
Yep.
is sort of a list of symptoms, and you have to have two or more of the list of symptoms present for it to count as constipation. Now, some
Hmm.
of these symptoms are really obvious ones, like hard, painful poos, or like really, really big poos. But some of these symptoms are actually a lot more nuanced and not necessarily what we would expect. So if you're doing more than 3 poos per day, or if you have persistent loose poos coming out, when your child doesn't even seem to know that they're coming out, that can be a sign of constipation as well. And essentially
Mm.
what happens in this case is it's called fecal overflow. So you end up getting so constipated, you have this plug of poo that's kind of impacting your bowel, and all the poo, all the new poo that's coming in, all of the poo that starts in our comes from our small intestine to our large intestine, comes in as liquid. So that
Mhm.
liquid poo kind of seeps around the outside or seeps through the cracks of the hard plug of poo and ends up looking a little bit like smears in the underwear. Sometimes people will mistake it for diarrhea or food allergy, something like that. There's
Mhm.
also some other symptoms that we think of and we think, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So bloating, tummy ache,
Yes.
really smelly gas, excessive wind, things like having a headache or changes in demeanor or behavior can be a real sign as well. So
Mhm.
we do a
Mhm.
really comprehensive interview with the caregiver, the family, sometimes the child, if that is indicated, if the child really wants to get involved. We
Yep.
always do a poo diary. So just marking how often the child poos, what their poos look like. And a photo diary is actually the best thing we can get. Sounds really gross, but it's my
No,
favorite
not
thing
at
to do
all.
is look at pictures of poos,
Yeah.
because a picture truly speaks 1,000 words. And
Yes,
then
it
we'll
does.
use that to see, are they pooing often enough? Are they pooing too often? What's going on here? And so we look at all of this information, and then we take the Rome 3 criteria, compare what were the parents saying, what the poo diary looks like against the criteria, and then we
Mhm.
make a decision of is this child displaying signs of constipation or not. And now,
Mhm.
obviously, we don't work in a silo. No clinician should ever work in a silo. So we then include the child's GP, pediatrician, family doctor, whoever is the treating doctor at the time, include
Mhm.
them and talk about a management plan and decide what would be best for each child.
Yes, definitely. Oh, I love that. I'm thinking back to my angel boy when he was, just after he was first diagnosed. I just remember his poos, Tabby, they were next level. Like, I reckon we would be in the childcare and he would have done a fart over on the other side of the room and it would just be like, just hit you in the
Clear
face.
the
Like, that's
room.
how. And I just remember thinking something is very, very wrong. Like, this
Yeah,
is, I'm not
absolutely.
feeding this child like 1,000 plums of something like that. He's going to be like, that kind of stench was just next level. So,
Yeah.
okay. Going away from that for a second, what do you, and we spoke about this a little bit in terms of like the barriers, but is there one thing that a parent, like obviously that every child's going to be different. Obviously, we know that no autistic person is the same. So then is there like a one thing that you would say definitely have this in the toilet, like or in the bathroom? This is like a must-have thing that you should have in the bathroom.
Yeah, I would say good positioning equipment. That's my one thing, but often that
Mm.
includes both a seat and a step. So that would
Yes.
be my one. If you can include nothing else, getting the child's positioning right on the toilet is really, really important. Now,
Mhm.
you might think, oh, my child can actually get on and off the toilet just fine and they can balance on the toilet seat. But if they're using their little arms to brace themselves and hold
Mhm.
themselves up, or if they have to wiggle to the front of the toilet and spread their legs really wide in order to balance on that toilet seat, that's a
Yep.
sign that probably their core muscles are working, right? If you've ever tried to do one of those chair push-ups, you can feel your tummy muscles switch on. And your pelvic floor is the base of your core muscles. So if you're working really hard to keep yourself upright, your pelvic floor is not necessarily going to be able to relax enough to urinate and defecate effectively. So what does that mean? It means that you might have leftover poo or wee sitting in your bowel or your bladder after you've been to the toilet, after you've done a poo or a wee. And that can
Mhm.
sometimes build up. Obviously, if it builds up for poos, it can lead to constipation. And if we have leftover old wheeze in our bladder, that can be a risk factor for urinary tract infections as well. And the step, again, even if your child can get their little toes touching the toilet floor, I'm not a very tall individual.
Yep.
So even though I'm an adult, I still need to use a toilet step to achieve ideal positioning in order for me to be able to defecate really effectively. So if I need to do it, I say any kids that are my height or shorter really should have a toilet step as well. And even some taller kids that I work with, once kids hit about 11 or 12, they're usually taller than me. So even those tall kiddos, they probably still need a step in order to achieve really good position. When we sit at a normal 90-90 sitting position, that generally is not the best for our pelvic floor relaxation. There's a specific muscle called our levator ani, just one of our pelvic floor muscles. It's a group of muscles, a little bit like our quads or our biceps, or a group of muscles. And that muscle will hold on to the angle between our rectum and our anus, makes like a
Mhm.
little hook shape. And
Yep.
it makes it harder for the poo to come out, which is great when I'm walking around, when I'm sitting down for dinner. I don't really want my poos to come out at that point. But
No.
if I get myself into a nice squatting position, so my knees are above my hips and my
Mhm.
bottom is lower than my knees, then that muscle will relax, will kind of release, and it makes sort of a straight shoot for those poos to come out. And it means that we defecate a lot easier.
Yes, I love that. Is there, a specific step that you would recommend for parents?
Whatever step gets your kids' knees at the right height,
Yeah.
which I know is a
Okay.
bit of a wishy-washy answer. There's lots of really wonderful products out there. You might have heard of Squatty Potty, and if you haven't heard of this brand, please go and Google their advertisement. If you just search Squatty Potty ad, you'll find it, and it's hilarious, and it teaches you about this positioning really, really well. It's a
Yep.
great product, and I like it because they have some height adjustable products. They've got products in different modalities. I guess they've got like bamboo and glass. If you really care about what your home looks like, which for some people that's really important. If they're not going to put a
Mm.
plastic step in their toilet room, then I'm trying to find something that looks really pretty so that
Yeah.
at least they are going to have something in there, because every family has different priorities.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is not the only brand of toilet step available, of course. Even if you just go to Kmart or like Target, or just look online, even eBay will have some really great toilet steps. And ideally, we just want to be getting that child into a nice natural squatting position, which generally means feet slightly wider than hips and
Mhm.
a nice deep bend to the knees. Most of the time, kids have a great deep squat. They are really good at it. If you watch them play, they will squat
Yes.
down with ease, a little bit easier than maybe you and I might. I'm making assumptions here. Maybe you're really good at squatting.
No,
Maybe you
no,
do lots of
no.
yoga. But like the deep yoga squat, malasana it's called, is something that I constantly have to work for, because my hips aren't super flexible, my Achilles aren't super long, so I find it a little bit more challenging. So any step that you can find, even measure for your child, just get a tape measure, use your knee to kind of prop their foot up and kind of get it up and down, or you even
Mhm.
use your hands and get someone to help you, and figure out what angle
Yep.
it looks pretty comfortable for your child, and measure that, and then just search online for a step that matches that height.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll grab the link for the Squatty Potty after we jump off, just so and we'll get some, other options as well, just so parents can have a look at different things because it can be overwhelming, and sometimes you don't know, and I didn't even know that there were glass or bamboo ones. I just assumed that they were all like that really colorful looking
Plastic.
stuff. Cool step.
Yeah, they
Um,
look really beautiful. I actually have in my bathroom, I've got a pink step stool that I just got off Amazon. I have no idea what brand it is,
yep.
but it wasn't super expensive. But I love it because my favorite color is pink, and so for me to feel really happy in my bathroom, that's what I got.
I love that. I will definitely get the link for that as well, because I definitely know that there are a lot of parents out there that are also struggling. As we know, stress will do so many wonderful things to our bodies, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, I honestly think. So we just need to be able to support that and make sure that we're getting our body in the right way. So I will grab that off you. Can you just tell us, why is it so important to have a multidisciplinary approach to toileting?
Absolutely. Selena and I are both really passionate about this subject. In all of the literature that you can find regarding best outcomes for assisting children, autistic or not, with
Mhm.
toileting, we find that a team approach works best. And
Yes.
when we think about it, that's really true for life, right?
Yep.
You can't go through life only having one support. Often you need a whole team, it takes a village. So
Mhm.
we're really passionate about it because we look at continence, we look at toileting from different approaches. We always have the same vision for the child, which is that they're going to have a bowel and bladder that function really effectively and that they're able to be as independent as possible with toileting tasks. That's sort of
Mhm.
our vision. But the way we come about that will be really different. So Selena is a continence clinician. We also have another wonderful continence clinician in our team, and they will look at things from a little bit more of like a medical perspective, looking
Mhm.
at bowel and bladder functioning, and also looking at how we can optimize that. And then myself, my background is I'm an occupational therapist. So I really love to get in there and look at equipment, sensory side of things, looking at routines, looking at how can we best support children in all environments. So I do a lot of toilet tourism as well, going and having a look at public toilets, how they're set up, helping kids feel a little bit more comfortable in these environments. And we bring all of this information together, and
Mhm.
often you'll have sort of a bit of a key worker model, so one main clinician, but other clinicians might dip in and out. And then
Yep.
in terms of the way that we work outside of our team as well, we'll also speak to that child's dietitian or psychologist, or general OT or speech pathologist or physiotherapist, to be able to help bring all these professions together. So of course with dietetics it makes perfect sense, what goes in must come out. So if we're
Absolutely.
looking at helping a child expand their diet or eat foods that are going to
Yes.
be more conducive to good bowel health. So, for example, increasing their fiber content, thinking about prebiotics and probiotics, then we want to be able to give the child the best possible information. So, often we'll consult with dietitian. We also have people in our networks that we can refer to that we really trust, that have good knowledge and that are
Yeah.
going to give you really good information.
Yeah, I think it, and to say that where you're like one person can be this expert across all of those the areas is just, it's just a fallacy. Like, I just don't think you can be that much of an expert and bring in that many different opinions across this one area for this one child. So I love that so much. And so the last question I have for you is, like, when should parents start to seek help? Like, is it, when you're noticing that the child's like clutching their stomach, really in pain, or is that just too far? Like, at what point in the journey are we needing to get some guidance?
I would say it's never too late to seek help. Like, even if your child is in like a real amount of pain, or you know that there's a big issue, still reach out and find the health professionals or the people that are going to support you best. If your child is in like in a real emergency state, they haven't done a poo for 4 or 5 days, they look like they're in physical pain, there's blood coming out of any orifice, I would say we really want you to seek emergency assistance. So that might be getting a really soon appointment to your GP, going to an urgent care clinic, or going to an emergency department. Our service isn't an emergency service, and so that means we can't respond to you with the right information, within a 24-hour period.
Mhm.
However, we're really lucky at the moment. We don't have a wait list, so we are seeing people quite quickly,
Yes.
and we will help you to sometimes develop those plans with your health professionals, especially maybe if your GP doesn't have a lot of experience in working in childhood constipation. We're able to support them with suggestions and work together with them. Now, on the other end, so it's never too late. You could always, never think, oh, it's too far gone, we can't do this. My oldest
Mhm.
client at the moment is actually in his 40s. And
Interesting.
whilst I mostly work with children, I will work with some select adults, and
Yes.
he's doing really well along his journey. He really didn't have a lot of opportunities to do toilet learning as a child and a young person, and this is one of his goals that he wants to get into now. So that's really
Yeah.
exciting. But on the other end, it's sort of really never too early. If you get Parents are really intuitive, right? I've never
Yes.
met a mum who doesn't have a good sense, a good feeling about what's going on for her child. Maybe she can't put it into words, or she feels like, oh, I just don't know, but there's something not quite right. Trust that gut feeling. And I would really encourage people to reach out as early as possible. If you've got a little person and you just don't really know how to get started with toilet learning or what that journey is going to look like for you, that's a great time to reach out. Maybe you only need 1, 2 appointments, or you might only need a couple of phone calls or video chats. You might not even need any in-person support, just to talk about a plan, decide, okay, how are we going to get this started, and what's that going to look like for you and your family. That's a
Yeah.
totally fine referral. If you do have a child who is, thinking about starting school, they still have some toileting issues. I know we've just gone into term 1, and that often brings up a lot of things for a lot of families. So then I would really encourage families to think about that as early as possible. So if you've got a 2-year-old that you're thinking, oh, we haven't
Mm.
quite got started yet, and we know that they want to go to 3 or kindy, or they want to go to 4, like, kindy
Yes.
at age 4, that's a really good time as well, because then we've got a nice amount of time to really develop those toileting skills. And often it does take a long time.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
really, at any
definitely.
point, if you get a feeling, it's a good time to give us a call.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So now I just wanna, clarify this. Do you need to physically see the person, or can it be all done by telehealth?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do our whole service by telehealth. At the moment, we're based in Perth, Western Australia,
Mm.
and so if you live in that catchment, we are able to do physical in-person visits, which are always wonderful. It's great to be able to see and meet our client in person, and I think a lot of people really want that now, especially having gone through a lot of video chat consultants and appointments, if in the previous few years. However, we do an online only service, and I move around, so I live in 2 different places. I live between Perth and Florida in the US. So a lot of my clients I will see when I'm in Perth, but then I won't see while I'm in Florida. And of
Yes.
course, my clients that I've got here in the US, I don't see them when I'm in Australia. And we actually work with children all over Australia. So currently I have a couple of clients in New South Wales. I've got one in Queensland and one in Victoria, I want to
Yep,
say.
yep.
And so we accept referrals from all over Australia.
Mhm.
And if we think that you need someone hands on in person, then we'll speak to you about your network. So maybe you have an occupational therapist that we can do a consult with that can give us a bit more information back. Or maybe we're able to refer to your doctor and ask them to get a request form for a real-time ultrasound, and then they can send us those results so we can help interpret them. Or maybe we will recommend a dietitian or someone that's able to do mealtime observations and then come back to us with that information. And once again, we work as a team.
Yes, I love that, I love that. So, if people are wanting to find you, where can they find you? On socials and on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on Instagram at Continence Hub, and our website address is continencehub.com. I want to say it's not, yeah, continencehub.com. I should
Yep,
have written it
yep.
up, shouldn't I?
No, that's okay. I will
And
pop it in the show notes anyway, so that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
And our information will be on there. And then if you want to inquire about services, you're more than welcome to just send us an email. Our email address and information will be on our socials and on our website. We also have an intake form we ask everyone to fill out just to give us a little bit more background information. We do a triage, which means that we look at what the referral is for and try and get the best match clinician for you, so
Mhm.
that you have the best chance of maybe having kind of less handover. But as working with a team, we often do appointments. You might have a one-off appointment with a continence clinician or with the OT in our team to ensure that we're really getting a good, well-rounded service.
No, I love that so much. I love it. Okay, ready for these rapid fire questions. Are
I
you
love it.
ready?
Absolutely.
How has your perspective on autism evolved over the years?
I think it's become really understanding the spectrum, right? I think that initially, when I started working with autistic kids, I thought that they were one thing. And that's maybe because I didn't have a lot of knowledge and a lot of
Mhm.
social experience with people, autistic
Yeah,
people. So, but
yeah.
now I've got friends that are autistic. I have family members. I know
Mhm.
lots and lots of kids, and I really understand that everyone's journey is really individual. And the best thing to do is just ask, like, what's going to help you, or ask their
Yes.
family, what's going to help them.
Yes, I love that so much. Okay, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, flying. I mean, that just sounds awesome.
I love it. It probably would help with you being able to move between Perth and Florida. So,
Yeah, yeah, maybe teleportation would be better for that one. I think flying, if I was to fly, it would be pretty slow still and very, very cold. It's cold up there.
yeah,
But honestly, just for the funsies, flying.
I love it. Um, what's a strategy or a sensory tool that you swear by, other than obviously the step that we've just talked about?
Absolutely. Okay, I have my props. Blowing
Yeah,
tools. I know that this is
yeah.
two, but I think they're so wonderful. So pinwheel, they're just fun and pretty and really good for developing that deep breathing, which is great for relaxation, pelvic floor control, just getting more oxygen up to your brain, all that good stuff. And also party blowers. Super fun, really good for your noise making kids, really not
Mhm.
great for your noise avoiding moms. But once again, really good for developing that breath control. And because there's a lip seal, makes it a little bit easier.
Yes, yes. No, I love that. I love that so much. Okay, parents, I'm sure all the parents right now are going to the $2 shop to go and buy all these things. So I
I think
love
so.
that. What does progress look like for you?
Progress looks like my client being happy with what they've achieved and feeling like they have some functional gain.
Yeah.
So that might not always look like achieving huge goals, or it might not always look like something that they're really super ecstatic about, but it might be moving from pooing in a pull up to pooing in a pull up, but in the toilet room. Or
Mhm.
it might look like the child not wanting to wipe their bottom at all to agreeing to do the last wipe, even when they know there's no poo there. That
Yeah.
can be a huge step in the right direction. And that can
Yes.
really help children to feel like they have a little bit more control and feel like they have some more functional skills in this area to help them feel more confident and comfortable to develop continence and more toileting skills in the future.
I love that so much. Okay, so what is a mantra or a quote that you love and you swear by?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I'm saying that because I'm trying to like delay so I can think of a good one.
That's all right. That's okay. It
Um,
is. It's a hard
what's
one
what's a
because
good?
and to
It's a
put you on the
yeah,
spot.
it's good because I actually use mantras a lot. Do you know what? I really love the Snoop Dogg mantra song. There's a whole series of songs that Snoop Dogg does for kids, and one of them is affirmations, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think of affirmations quite like mantras, and I think it's really cool. So it's like I know I can be what I want to be, and it goes on,
I love
and
it.
I think it's really beautiful. So I really
I
like,
will
you can do anything or you can be anything or I can do anything, I can be anything. My mom's always said that to me from like a really young age and I think it stuck.
Yes, I love that. I say that to my kids all the time. I'm like, literally. Other than the fact that I'm constantly telling them that I love you about 4 billion times, I think they're at the point now they're like, "Mum, we get it. You love us. I understand."
I love it. Never stop.
Never stop. Okay, thank you so much, Tabby. I have so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me
I love
too.
that you've been able to bring so much strategies and so many tips on and to not be afraid of poo and to not be afraid of what's going on in the bathroom, and that we can actually give our children some really cool strategies to help them on their way when it comes to poos and wees. So thank you so much. I love speaking to you, and we will chat to you soon.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.